Hey friends, welcome to Adobe Live. Today on our Adobe Live Spotlight, we have here Courtney Swift-Copeland. She's the owner and creative director of Salt Paper Studios, a creative studio based in Carolina, right? South
Yeah, we're in the
Carolina.
Carolinas,
There you
Rock Hill,
go.
South Carolina. Yeah.
Oh, I went to North Carolina. Have to check off my list to go visit you in South Carolina. So,
We're right over the border. Come on
Courtney,
over.
Courtney, if you want to say hello to the chat
Yeah.
and
Hi, guys.
introduce a little bit about yourself.
Hi, chat. It's fun to be live again with you, Cyn. Thanks for having us
Yeah.
back. Yeah, so I am Courtney Swift-Copeland. I'm the creative director and owner of Salt Paper Studio in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We make high quality food, lifestyle, product imagery, accessible and hopefully acceptable for our clients. Yeah, we're a commercial photography and videography studio.
Is the photography
South Carolina.
sorry about that. Is the
That's okay.
photography background a very strong part of how you began your Salt Paper Studios journey?
It is. It is. I see the website's up now. So I'll just let this play. We started out about 7 years ago. My retouching manager, Alexis Howard, and I started this. She was on an Adobe Live with me last time, and we did a little project for a cocktail, which I'll show you later. But we came over
Awesome.
here about 7 years ago after having worked for a textile company that shot a lot of fabric by the yard and yarn for big box stores like Walmart and Hobby Lobby, Hancock, Joann Fabrics, places like that. So
Wow.
we're
Bakers.
basically part of the marketing department there. And so when they would sell their product in to one of these stores, a marketing component would come with that program.
That's amazing. I think a lot of us start in photography at some point and then delve into a lot of different spaces. Do you find yourself diving into new mediums these days?
Yeah, I mean, I actually am just wildly fascinated by a lot of the women that work with me. They're all kind of mixed media artists. Our project manager, operations manager here she's a textile artist, and she makes these beautiful cocoons and tufted works. And then our retouching manager, she has been doing a lot of mixed media pieces. So it's great for me. I'm strictly commercial these days. I shoot a little bit of film when I travel, and that's super fun, and a little bit of a release and an old way to use your current medium, which feels a little different than how you have to use it every day, which is a
For sure. I
nice
think that
balance.
everybody needs to have that balance of,
Yeah,
okay, this is for business just as well, but
sure.
allowing yourself to enjoy it as your inner artist.
Yep.
So that film comes in handy. Can
Hmm.
you tell us a little bit about how your journey was from being a photographer to becoming a business owner?
Yeah. So I started in high school. I started realizing I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't really know in what capacity. I became interested in painting and drawing, and actually drawing first. And then I realized I wasn't that great at painting, but I really liked it. And then as I got into pottery and things like that, I realized, oh, there's more out there than just, pencil and paper and paint and canvas. And I started shooting with a little point and shoot, and that was kind of fun. Um, my mom had this AE1 that was her father's, and it was the last thing he bought before he passed. He was a welder, and he was going to Africa to work for 2 weeks. He actually passed while he was in Africa, but he had used that camera, I think maybe like a half of a roll. And mom used it all the time. And she said, you can use it when you go to college. When you go to college, meaning, okay, by the time you're in college,
Protecting the treasure.
you will not be interested in this camera anymore when you get to college. So, little did she know that that was not the case. So I went to SCAD for school, and I decided I wanted to go for advertising design. And because that was, to me, I was like, oh, well, I can be an artist and I can also make money. That's cool. Like
That's the
I can,
dream. Yeah.
yeah, like I want to be like, Don Draper. Like, let's do it. So,
Wow, you just hit my heart right there. Absolutely.
actually, that wasn't, I'll date myself. That wasn't out yet when I was in high school. So I didn't know who that was yet. I think that came out my senior year.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
still to this day obsessed. So
so
I
good.
get the feeling. Yeah.
I may, yeah, I'm a big fan of his. But anyway, so yeah, I get in there and you do your prerequisites the first year or so. And I had to take a photo class, and they had a photo for the major and they had a photo for the non-major. And so I decided I was going to do photo for the major because it was a darkroom class. And I said, hey, well, I have a camera I can use now that I'm in college, I can use this camera. So I write home for the camera. And my mom like reluctantly sends it to school. I think she might have drove it down even. She was like, I'm not putting that in the mail. And when I tell you, it was like something that I had never experienced before when that photo came out of the developer. It was like, oh,
Wow.
this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do with my life. And I call home like, within that week after I had a few classes there, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a photographer, and then my dad's like begging me to keep my advertising degree. Please. Like, okay, but just don't get rid of the advertising degree. Please don't get
Yeah.
rid of the advertising degree. So I kept my advertising classes, and I graduated with a degree in commercial photography and a
Mm,
minor in ad design. And
sounds great.
yeah, and ad design was actually what got me going in the world of the arts, because
Mhm.
it's hard to launch a career as a photographer unless you go into
Right.
assisting or working in a studio, and that's hard. That's hard to break into.
Absolutely. I think a lot of
Hmm.
folks experience that shift of artist versus business mindset.
Yes. Yes.
And then if you do you have any recommendations for those who are trying to step into those spaces? What lessons have you learned along the way that have helped you in navigating that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can take that a different direction actually, because I think it was harder to understand what was happening when I was younger and experiencing it. And I went
Mm,
into more like advertising and production. But I think if you're trying to break into the photo world, I think you just need to be willing to listen and do and be
right.
relentless and just put yourself in front of people all the time and be helpful and learn as much as possible, ask as many questions as possible. I know the people that really impress us here are the ones that show up on time, work their tails off, you know, of course, the days now I can't speak for any other studio, but here the days of working your butt off and not being compensated, or like, we pay our interns and stuff like that. We've all had bad experiences, I'm sure, but yeah, I think people just need to be ready and willing to really dive
To try
in
it
and
out.
and
Yeah.
try it out and learn as much as
Mhm.
possible.
If you're lucky, you end up in a studio that helps catapult you in that direction,
Hmm. Yeah.
by opening up those doors of like that kind of education. I think it's great that you're
Hmm.
you're considering everybody in your team that way.
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean, I
that you're,
think,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, I think that what I notice is like, if we're paying attention to the people that are coming into the studio, and then people who are right out of school that are coming into the studio, or even people who have been in the game for a while and they're coming in and they're wanting to kind of start again. um, I think there's enough people here that are interested in what they're capable of and putting them in the right spot. We've got
Right.
really talented people that come in thinking they want to be a photographer, and then they realize, wow, I love retouching. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
God. Yeah.
great, let's hone in on those skills. Like our post-production manager hadn't ever picked up the Wacom pen at school, and she just had to help me out, and she fell in love with it. So now she's like the best retoucher I know. I mean, it's cool. You just have to be willing to be ready for whatever,
Yeah.
workflow is given to you.
But they all kind of relate back to each other, right? They have
Oh yeah.
a string connecting them all.
Yep.
On
Yeah.
that note, I know that your company is a full service content creation.
Hmm.
So what does that mean for your company and how does that help you stand out?
Yeah. So we don't just execute. I mean, we can be as hands-on or as hands-off as we need to be. We have a production studio, which you know, will help you concept. We offer art direction. We offer production. We offer, past that, um, production all the way through, and then into shooting and lighting schematics. And we've done style guides as far as lighting goes for clients, and then retouching and post production, and then the same on the video side. So, sometimes clients come to us and they have their agency in place and they just want to give us a project and they want us to take the pictures, retouch them, and turn them over. That's how we got our start. So we do that quite a bit for some of our smaller clients, and that's wonderful. A lot of the e-com projects are like that. It's like, send us a box of product and we're going to make it look pretty and send you the images back, and then slap on your shipping label and have your product back too. But some of the bigger companies we've actually started doing like some concepting for, and art direction, and full service styling and room scenes. And we have a wood shop and we're building out like full kitchens, and
Wow.
we're building out like living rooms and tiny vignettes too. So it's really like the sky's the limit. If you
Can
can
imagine.
dream
Yeah.
it, you can have it.
Yeah, I think
To an extent.
there's a lot of room for imagination. And I think as
Yeah.
a creative director, I can imagine you're often kind of rethinking of how to provide a service. And
Hmm.
so among all those photography categories or video categories, like what is your favorite, you would say, whenever a client comes
For
and
me,
knocks on your door?
I get really excited for food photography. I'll just show this up on the site real quick. Um, these are some of our more recent shots um, for food photography. Some of them are a little older, but they still hold their own. Yeah, I've I so I started out in textiles, like I said, but then I just was like, I want to do food. I want to shoot food all the time. So while I was still
It's
shooting
beautiful.
that, thank you, those were clients that I was after on a personal level. And now, we've been working with Krispy Kreme. You can see them down here. These guys for years, and they're such a wonderful client of ours, and such like we've hoped that we're being as good of a partner to them as they're being to us. And they're in the studio all the time. And now I feel that I am more so fueled by maintaining that relationship and helping them push the boundaries creatively than I used to be. It was more about like, okay, get the job done and get it out the door and on to the next. And it was all what's in front of me from an execution standpoint. And now creatively, it's so fun to have their agency call us and say, here's an idea. How can we execute? And that's like what kind of gets us excited now. Um,
Yeah, I imagine.
yeah.
A lot of the folks here on the chat are curious about what kind of equipment do you like to use? I know you started your journey with film.
Yep.
How has that evolved
Yeah.
along yeah.
Well, I will say that I'm still dying for someone to call me and say they want me to do like a Hasselblad shoot on film for their products. So if we can
Yeah.
manifest that, that'd be great. But I let's see. I mean, we shoot with an R5 now, Canon R5.
Mm.
Um, so working with the mirrorless system, and that's been great. And the quality is a lot of fun. And there's a little more flexibility with that camera and that system than we had even with the Mark IV. But we still do shoot with a Mark IV setup and like the L series lenses when we're doing like I guess you'd call it UGC content
Mm.
that's a little more accessible because now, and this could be a whole other hour, but you have content that lives as advertising, and you have content that's a little more, I don't want to use the word disposable, but I'm going to use it as that it's
Mhm.
consumable.
Yeah.
So, it's great to use that system now for that.
Okay. So like UGC, user generated
Mhm,
content, feels more I guess accessible to folks
mhm.
right at
I
this
think
moment.
so. Yeah.
You're seeing that demand
Yes.
come up.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're being asked to do that a lot for, like I said, the more consumable um, projects, I would say. The ones
Mhm.
that don't live as long, maybe they're LTOs, maybe they're quicker. They're product driven shoots primarily that need to be done outside. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, that camera is wonderful. And then I guess, aside from cameras, we use pro photo lighting with all kinds of modifiers. Depending, we try to stick to we use a lot of Godox modifiers because sometimes we have to buy things that are quick. We're like, oh, let's light like this, and then we need an excess
Yeah.
of of um, modifiers, and so we'll buy whatever we need at the time. What else?
How about
Obviously.
your application workflow in
Mhm.
post editing or maybe
Yep.
during production?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we shoot tethered most always, unless we are running and gunning outside. And some of our tool work is actually that way. We have a lot of work that we do for tool companies, and that sometimes is a little more down and dirty, and we won't shoot tethered. And in that situation, we'll pull all the images up in Bridge, and we'll go through and we'll edit everything down to what we think the client wants to see. We'll give them a hightail link with all of their images, and they can make selects right then and there. And then
Nice.
we go into our retouching process with our team of retouchers. So, like I said, we have two in-house retouchers right now, and they manage a team of external retouchers and contractors, and just a bunch of people that are extremely invaluable to us at this point.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine.
yeah,
Has have they, do you know if they've encountered any new workflows at the moment? I know there's been just so many upgrades on the Photoshop and on the Lightroom end lately.
yeah.
I would be curious as to how you and your team have adapted throughout that
Yep.
transition.
Yeah, I think a lot of the old processes still really reign true for us. I know our retoucher goes to your Adobe events, and she learns a lot from those. When I asked her specifically, hey, when I'm speaking to your workflow today, what would you like me to say? And
Uh-huh.
she just had a few notes about um, her ability to, like, their files are huge. They end up giving us PSBs, which I guess Photoshop Big. I don't know if that's exactly what it stands for, but that's what we call it here, Photoshop Big. And
It's a huge file.
it's a
Yeah,
huge file because
has a
it's just
lot of
this
data.
layered. I actually have one I can pull up for you and show you.
Mhm.
Um, can you see this? Yeah, I'll make
Mm,
this bigger for you.
I can see it.
Okay, great. So, she has all of her layers here. I will not embarrass myself and try to speak to her workflow in a big capacity, but you can see this is a set build that we have done. Um, and if I turn off all of these layers, you can see, like, how much work she has done. I maybe should have
There's
started
always
with,
a level of like quality that you can tell it's something, it's a different standard. And
yeah,
so what I'm seeing here is a lot of editing in the back end that
yes.
defines that photograph,
Yes.
which
So,
to us, the naked eye could be like, no, hold on. This
yes.
looks great, but I guess that's the photo.
hmm But I guess what's important to say about a project like this is that absolutely everything that's done could be done in camera is done in camera. Um, like it looks like they needed to do some, oh, and it's gone. I have some behind the scenes shots I can show you too that are kind of cool. Um,
Yeah, Alejandro here is saying the photography quality is excellent. Loving the food ones
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
Appetite.
Amazing.
That's the idea,
So
right?
the shot that I just showed you
Hmm.
was this really fun set build of a kitchen. And this is the set build in the studio. So these are the guys
So this
putting,
was done in-house in your studio.
yes,
Wow.
yes. Um, yeah, you can see the load-in dock behind it, the garage door. It's how we get all the cabinets in and stuff. But this was a really fun project that we were really proud of. And we were proud to have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
The countertop guys came and installed everything. It was the only thing that didn't work was the water. So the dishwasher didn't run, but
But
it
you
didn't
could have
need to.
cooked in it.
You could have cooked in it. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
yep, you could have cooked in
It's
it.
a great way to wrap up a shoot.
Yeah. Um, and what's fun to see is, for example, each shot for your reflections, do you see how the stove it's pretty,
Yeah.
it's clean, it's great, but the reflections aren't right. So, you might whiteboard everything. See your dishwasher here and your microwave here. And then at the end, it's all comped together. And that's where you get your
So you're
final
treating
shot.
each shot, each appliance separately,
Hmm.
trying to just get the best shot
Yep.
possible,
And
and then
that's
compiling
where
them.
the heavy lifting in Photoshop comes in, because then they come in and
Mhm.
so in this case, it was really interesting. They sent us these beautiful refrigerators. And this was the model that the new one actually hadn't been made yet, but they had, for advertising, it had to hit the stores at the right time. So we had to adapt it to make it exactly like the CAD and then get it approved by the product team. So this was our on the fly adjustment. The real one has a mirror in the front. So
Mhm.
we had this mirror that was that was just a prop. And so we shot it at the right angle to get the right reflection.
Mhm.
And then you can see that Alexis took, and she basically recreated from the CAD um, the exact refrigerator that the company would have
So
is now
how
selling.
big is your studio for you to put this entire
Yeah,
kitchen
so
in it?
we started out with 5,200 square feet. We're in
Mhm.
a warehouse that has different bays, and each bay is 5,200 square feet. We got
Wow.
really lucky about a year and a half ago, and a bay right next to our office space opened up.
Mm.
So we asked them if we could rent that one too. So then we had what, like 11,000 square feet.
So you saw the opportunity. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and we
That's
had a few
great.
clients coming and asking if we'd be interested in working with them, and they wanted to give us
Mhm.
a few tests, like test shoots, and we were just like, you just have to jump on it when you can, you can't say no when opportunity knocks.
Yeah.
Um, so
It's a good
we
challenge.
yeah, bit the
Yeah.
bullet, and that's
Hmm.
some of those growing pains that are a little scary. It keeps you awake at night. It's like that's a lot of money to spend. Is the work going to come in?
It's an investment.
Yes, but
Right.
I'm so confident in
Mhm.
this team, and their work is so beautiful. And I knew we were gonna do it. So we then had 11,000 square feet. Since then, we've realized that we need more. So we are
Mhm.
temporarily renting another bay in this studio, that's also 5,000 square feet. So what's that
Wow.
put us to, like 1,600 or something? And that one will go away next year when we rent a new warehouse that's 12,000 square feet. So
That is growth if I've ever
yeah,
heard of it.
it's wild. It's
Quite.
wild. And so
Yeah.
the 12,000 square feet will actually be
Mm.
that will be our wood shop. So we'll have the wood shop and the set build in that space. It's about 5 minutes away from here. So I keep teasing that we'll have a campus.
Wow.
And then the
A football
studio,
stadium,
yes,
no less.
Studio 104 that I'm coming to you from right now is our office space, and we have a commercial kitchen now in the back for prep. So we can do our steaks, and we can take on clients that need more, not just styling, but actually food prep. Um,
We have talent on our chat here. It says, Robert, I was a set builder for nearly a year at IKEA photo studios.
nice.
Yeah, so it's
That's
wonderful to
great.
hear all of the work that goes behind your photography studio. I'm curious, does everything happen in-house, or do you ever go to the sites
Yes,
directly?
that's a really good question. So
Mhm.
we used to be, so well, I guess I skipped this part. When we first started out, my husband and I renovated an old laundromat that was like, I think
Wow.
it was, I think it was 2,500 square feet, and the ceilings were really short. And so everything we did, if it wasn't tabletop ecom setup, was on location. So we kind of got
Mm.
our start in those bigger offsite productions.
Got
And
it.
then now the studio work, the set build stuff is new to us, but it is now about, I would say, 70% of our business.
Wow.
So 30% only now is offsite. And we love shooting on site and set build because we can really control all of the elements. We can control the light so well, and we can actually design the sets so that they hold the light perfectly and the products are highlighted perfectly. When you're on location, you can't really guarantee that the window is going to be in the right spot for the refrigerator,
There's a lot of
or you know what I mean?
variables that could be completely different.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of scouting then prior to a photo shoot?
Our producers do
Mhm.
a lot of scouting. Actually, they're working on that right now for a campaign that we're working on next month. And they're looking at a row of houses. So they're gonna see if they can't kind of ask a few people on the street if they can use different door fronts for this shoot. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
yeah,
exciting.
sometimes we hire scouts, and sometimes we have tips from people, and we have some friends that are realtors that actually work here as well. They do like wardrobe styling and some fun stuff like that. So they bring us people that they think would be willing to let us use their houses, and they've made us books. So we've got just an extensive library of things that we can use at this point. And then it just
Wow.
comes down to calling the people and saying, hey, are you willing to let us use your house for X amount of dollars a day? And usually they're okay with it. So
Wow, that's so interesting. So on
yeah,
that note, what positions are pivotal to every shoot? It sounds
yeah,
like there's a lot of different people taking part on just
yeah,
pulling it together, I can
yeah.
imagine. Some,
Lots of moving parts.
yeah, lots of moving
Um,
parts.
Obviously the client, the client's kind of primary.
Yeah.
They come to us with a great idea. They come to us either with their agency or in-house. They come to us with an idea, and that kicks off our art directors to start moving and shaking on how we can execute. A lot of times they will be working with our photographers to figure out what's possible in camera and what's possible from a lighting and technicality standpoint. The producer is key. The producer is kind of the boss of the whole job. So they're the ones doing the estimate and the bidding and the keeping the time on set. They usually have a couple assistants, PAs or production assistants, and they show up and they really help. They're just pivotal. They keep everything moving. Um, whether that's like wiping down product and making sure it's not dusty, or unpacking the
Mhm.
sprinter van, or all of those things. um, Managing catering, and then you have your account manager, which is usually either the producer or myself. We've been really fortunate to have some really great clients that we've worked with long term, so we've gotten to know these people, and we consider them friends at this point. And so managing client isn't really super difficult for this team. It's a little stressful when it's a new client, but
Yeah, I
mostly it
imagine.
works out pretty well.
Right,
And then
because you get used to it eventually.
yeah,
What subject matter is the most difficult to shoot, considering you do have a lot of different categories?
yeah, it's funny. Today you think so. E-commerce work you think is like, we all think of it as, oh, it's an easy week. We have product in the studio to shoot on white paper. It's a photographer and he's
And the
coming
product.
in
Yeah.
and he's just gonna like put his headphones in and set up his lights and he's gonna have some leisurely days and make some money. But our lead photographer Graham is back there right now and he's
Uh-huh.
shooting some hardware, patio door hardware, and they
Hmm.
have new substrates. And one of them is black chrome. And it is like a black mirror. And if you shoot it and you block all of the light so that
There's
you get the
nothing.
highlights nice, it looks
Yeah.
matte. But if
Oh.
you, so you can't do that. So you have to like craft the highlights. So he's
Mm.
built, he's playing with like the vellum and trying to like wrap the product. And this thing that was supposed to be kind of an easy day turned into like, of all the things I do, this piece of patio hardware is giving me the hardest time.
Yeah,
But things
because
like
you
that.
want, like you said, you want as much as possible during production, but then you're met with the shortcomings of a camera. At that point, do you think do the talents within your studio that do the post-production step in to try to bring it as close to
Yeah.
the product as possible?
Yeah, I think what's really great about the team we have in place right now is that they all work so well together. It's like our lead retoucher was back there with our lead photographer, and they were troubleshooting what's possible in camera. And Graham's like,
Mm.
this is as far as I can get it. What can we do now in post? And she's like, oh, that's great. I can work with that perfectly. And then so, she's just has to remove a little reflection here. We try really hard not to lean on retouching only because that's just not fair to them, to have to
Mm.
recreate it. Plus, you want the authenticity of what that product actually looks like. You don't want to start
Right.
painting things in or removing highlights too much because then it doesn't look like the substrate that it is. And then
Mhm.
it's almost like it's false advertising to your consumer.
Right.
Um,
Especially when it's a product that they're wanting to get as close as possible to the purchase.
right,
I imagine, yeah,
right,
that's when it
right.
becomes
But
precarious.
yeah, but that piece of patio hardware was probably the hardest thing we've shot in a while. The big rooms are easier in a
You
sense
met your
because
Crocs.
yeah, yeah, of all things. I didn't expect
Yeah.
that today.
Yeah. And that's today particularly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So things are happening in the background. I know last time
Yeah.
we were here, you were doing a live studio set.
Yes.
Um, so we got to get an insider on how it all happens. I think last time you were also tethered to Lightroom. Do you
We were
continue
shooting
that
to
workflow?
Lightroom. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome.
And yeah, I remember because we had our live stream going, and then we had a live view of the camera. And then we had our stylist in the background, Priscilla. She's amazing. She's our lead food stylist. She's the best.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember.
yeah, we had a little bit of a set build, this little like Adobe wall inspired by Adobe. And then Alexis we had 4 screens, I think, that we were toggling back and forth from. So that wasn't super easy for the producers, but they did a great job. But yeah,
I
I mean, that was the
Yeah,
workflow. Yeah, you shoot to the
that day was
computer
fun. Yeah.
and then you process inside of Lightroom. There's a lot of processing and pre-work that you can do in Lightroom to make your workflow a lot easier in Photoshop.
I imagine
And
all of this, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, all of this processing in Lightroom helps for a more consistent batch of images because you're batch processing. So all of your colors and all of your anything you do to one image, you can copy and you can say, client wants these 5 images from the shoot, and
Right.
you make sure everything's to a standard. And that comes in especially handy when you're working on a product that the color is key. Um, and then you can make sure that everything's perfect to whatever Pantone they give you to match.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I had a question, I think.
I
Oh
interrupted
gosh,
you.
just thinking about all of what you just told us right now, I imagine that managing the business can be stressful at times. How do you find yourself in a position to be able to manage all of those different parts of your business?
you put really great people in place that don't need to be managed. And it helps a lot. I have been
Yeah.
so fortunate with the people that I have on board. They're wonderful. This wouldn't be half of what it is without them. They've all got ideas and they come to me with their ideas and we implement them. And it's just as much of a collective, I feel, as it is, I think I think I had an idea and then I feel like I've got 10 or 15 people that just ran with it, which is awesome, especially
Wow.
because it's getting a lot harder now. I have a 2-year old and
Mhm.
balancing life and being a mom and owning this place is really hard most days, not because anyone makes it hard, just because you have to split your time. So,
Yeah, you have challenges all the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm so fortunate. I have mostly women on our team, so we're like a women-run business for sure. Um, and I think the 10 full-time producers are all like in the production studio. They're all women, and then my husband does the accounting and he leads the set build team. And then he has a group of guys that do the set build, and then we have male and female photographers, and it's just really great. We didn't really intend for it to
It
be
sounds
a all female
wonderful.
run business. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
wonderful. It's great. We didn't intend for it to really turn out that way. I mean, we're like, this is great, like, you know, female power. We love it, but it's
Yeah.
we really will put the best people in place for the job. I mean, I think just everyone, there's just a good vibe here. Everybody kind of cares for
I
each other in their
That
positions.
environment I think sounds wonderful just on the even if it's a I love the idea of this industry also being female led,
Mhm.
just on the mere fact that the photography and video industry tends to be very male dominated,
Yes.
which can shift the stories we tell. So I think
Yes.
that striking that balance, I think that it deserves a moment as well, to feel like,
Yeah.
okay, this is another achievement in the
Thank you.
business aspect. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that.
we're proud of it. We're proud of this team and we're proud to be like a team of women. And I think I find that a lot of the people that find us, a lot of the people that find us and hire us are, the art directors and the in-house producers. There's a lot of women in that end of the spectrum too. So it's really cool because there's that mutual respect. But like I said, I mean, the team is just great. I mean, male or female or whoever, everybody's just so wonderful and everyone's so
Mhm.
respectful and it's just a great group of people.
Yeah,
So,
like having a good team that gets along in the entire process, the entire creative process, I imagine is
yeah.
important in order to not have to manage so many
Yeah.
different
I mean, it's
parts.
it's there are always tense moments, especially when we're overtime on set or, I'm not perfect. I
Yeah.
get stressed out and when I'm stressed and nobody's happy.
Mhm.
But I think we all get
It
through it
could
at the end of the
be
day. It could be so much
hanger,
worse. Yeah. Sometimes most of the time you just have to feed me and then I'm fine.
photographing too much food, not eating enough of it. Yes,
Too
it
many
happens.
cocktails, not enough
Yeah.
drinks. Like, yeah,
Yeah, for
no,
sure. Do
but
you have any particular ambitions at the moment going forward? It seems to me like you've achieved a lot of different things that a lot of us want to do. I mean, the dream team, wonderful clients, a variety of clients also, which keeps things
very
interesting at all
interesting.
times.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything like another maybe hanging fruit that you're thinking this might be my next thing?
Yeah. I am obsessed right now with figuring out the best way to run photo and video simultaneously and
Oh,
give the client the most perfect, cohesive campaign with both. And so we've been trying to run it a few different ways. We have a new client right now, and we had a great shoot with them last week, and we're all so proud of it. Maybe next time I talk to you, I can show it to you. I don't want to call
yes.
it out now because I don't know them that well yet. Um,
Okay.
but we were all so proud of the work, and I think the photos and the videos are so cohesive, and it's so perfect, and the team did so well. And the first day we ran video light. And this is interesting, actually, from a technical standpoint. The,
Mhm.
the thought was we're going to run as much power as possible into the set so that we can shoot photo and video at the same time. And we're not going to blast the talent with light so that they're like squinting while they're,
Mhm.
because with video you shoot at a higher ISO.
Yeah.
And so for photo, a lot of these images, the reason that they want the photos is yes, digital use, which is you can use a higher ISO for digital use. But if they want to print some of these shots, which they wanted signage, we had to lower our ISO. So um, basically, we needed to have more power for photo, and without blinding the talent, we just decided, okay, in order to make this look perfect, we're going to have to set up strobes, and we're going to have to set up um, our video lights, our continuous, and we're going to
Mhm.
have to just run them in the same spots. So on our pre-light day, we put everything in place. I'm oversimplifying because it really wasn't this easy, but maybe next time it'll work out like this.
Mhm.
Um, we put all of our strobes in place after we lit video, because video you can see what's going on. You can turn your modeling lights on for photo, but it's not as strong. It's not as easy to like gut check. Um, anyway, so we shot the first half of the day on day 2, all photo. And then we did the same exact shot list with motion second half of the day
Mm.
after we pulled the strobes. And the result was beautiful.
Mhm.
So the downside is the client has to have enough time and enough funding to basically stretch the shoot out twice as long as it would be if it was just video or if it was just photo. But if
Mm.
they do, then the upside is having one team and one producer on the whole shoot makes sure that everything is so cohesive. Your photos and your videos are, even if they're not the exact same shot, they are definitely part of a series. Whereas before, um, you know,
Anything could be
it
slightly
could
different.
it could be different because you would run it. Trying to think of the best way to say this. Typically, people will hire a different house to do photo, and like a different product, like two different production companies, basically. One to
Mm.
do photo and one to do video.
Do they often do
So
that and just to keep up their timeline
I
to have
think
mm,
I think it's that the skill sets under one roof are not typically all there, and that's
right.
not universal. Like I'm aware that there are places that do this, and I'm a little late to the game in it because we've
Mhm.
always been like a photo house and video has accompanied that. But moving forward, I'm like feeling really confident in both skill sets. We've got a director on board right now that I'm just so happy with, and he just drives with us really well. And we've got another video house that's in Nashville that we've worked with on occasion too, and they're all just really great people and they produce really great work. And anyway, long story short, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to give the client the best deliverable. And I think we've figured it out. So I'm trying to nail that down. And that's my next obsession.
I think it's interesting to hear you say that that's your next obsession because it sounds very focused on the tech side. So you balance a lot of hats, right? Like being a creative director, managing a business, also having that background as a photographer right at the start. How do you find that balance between, doing this for your business and then doing it for your, that beginner artist that touched that AE1 for the
I
first time?
think, yeah, I think my goals just change as the business grows. And, just like everyone, somebody gets a job and they grow within their business. I've been growing
Mhm.
within this one.
Mm.
We have a business consultant, and I was talking to him yesterday, and he's like, "It's okay that I was venting, and he was like, "It's okay that you feel this way. You're growing as your
Yeah.
business is growing." And I've
Right.
noticed that my taste is growing as the business is growing. And the things that when someone comes on that is really great at something and I can put them in place and they can handle that piece, I don't have to worry about that piece anymore.
Mhm.
So um, I can focus on with whatever is next. And so I think for me, I've always said our team, we're commercial artists. Our job is to answer a brief, but being able to know your craft well enough to be able to answer a brief and not get stuck stylistically in one thing is
Mm-hmm.
um is a talent and a skill set in itself, I think. So
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, I think it's really amazing when, I'm looking at artists to bring in, and artists that want to work here, and we bring them in and they have this very unique style, and it's fantastic and it's so fascinating and it's what gets them in the door. But it's like, okay, but then how would you do this for this client? Like, if I hired you for this
Mm-hmm.
client, could you figure out reverse engineering this lighting? Do you know how to do that?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the answer is yes. And then they come on and they work for us and it's great. Um, but
So
yeah,
having
it's
that flexibility, I think you
yeah,
that seems to be a common denominator in all of
yeah,
it. You're very much have become a chameleon in your own craft. And then I hear that everybody that's in your studio has that willingness to do that
yep,
as well. And
yep,
I continuing that growth, I think is important to stay flexible.
yes,
Um,
yes.
ha have you found, you said that you are now doing video. So is that as a result of like higher demands for video, or is that maybe internally everyone's more intrigued into going in that direction, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I think so. As the times are changing a bit and the way this content is being consumed is changing, there's almost two types of demands. There's the demand for high quality content, advertising content, commercials, broadcast streaming. None of that
Mm,
has changed. I feel like that demand has been there for a long time, and that's always been the
that's
goal.
good news. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What's
Mhm.
changing is there's almost um I'm getting more requests. We as a studio are getting more requests for this faster paced, more consumable work that's
Mhm.
maybe the DSLR, um, like video work, not like the red camera. And then there's like they want faster, higher volume content from a photo perspective, which is
Mhm.
interesting. Um, so I think the demand is changing a bit, and I think adapting to that demand um, is interesting. And that's unique in itself. I mean, just
Yeah.
on the topic of like being a chameleon, how do you service that? How do you service two types of client, right? Without, um,
They seem to be polar opposites almost in personality
yes. Well,
traits.
yeah, in what they're asking for.
Mhm.
So, where a business to business consumer might need faster content because they have things to sell on Amazon. They might just need like
Right.
quick stuff. But a business to consumer, like some of our bigger clients that have agencies, they're looking for things that are printed and they're looking for signage and they're looking for
Mhm.
content that even if it doesn't live as long, it's still higher quality. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
not answering your question. I'm sorry. I kind of went
No,
off on a
it
tangent
it
there.
does make sense though. I imagine that oftentimes you have to not only put yourself in the shoes of you and the artist that you have in-house, but also the client, but also the consumer.
Mhm.
So the consumer seems to be a different person, and at that point, then the client demands something else, and
Mhm.
then you are trying to, find the avenue to appease to those demands, which I think it's completely part of the business growth,
Right.
right? Always keeping almost like an ear out for
Yes.
what's next, but without having to compromise what
Right.
along the way. So
Right. I think
I
that's
get
everyone's,
it's a hard question to
yeah,
answer in itself.
that's everyone's struggle right now, I think, is
Hmm.
like I'm sure every studio is dealing with that right now. You get asks for, someone will call and they'll say, I have 50 products and I have X amount of dollars to do it, and I need them shot in four different situations each.
Hmm.
And we're like, woo, for that budget, I can't make that happen.
Mm.
So what we've actually done is, we're working on it now. You heard it here first. We're working on an ecom business that is also an internship program. It's called Rainy Day Media, and it's going to give back to the community, the photo community a bit, and give
That sounds
interns
awesome.
and new hires, like people right out of school, an opportunity to learn to shoot
Yes.
ecom under the
I love
people.
the sound of all of this.
Good. Under the people that work here, that, they can't execute those jobs for those price points anymore at this stage in their career. But I don't want to alienate or disregard the fact that, there are people that need that work, and it's an
Mhm.
opportunity for people right out of school, or people that are still in school, to learn and make money at the same time, and
Mhm.
maybe graduate and come over to Salt Paper. Like, I think
Yeah,
it's so we're working on that as well, and we've got a little website started, and it's not live yet. But
but
that's
definitely look
another
out for that.
way. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's another way to service that area of content, I think, and to keep it separate. I mean, really, from a business perspective, keeping those two initiatives separate, because if we were executing work like that under this brand, it's hard to
Mhm.
hire the talent to. It's just it's very sticky. It's very hard. So
Do you find yourself being a bit of a liaison between like the brief and then also the artist that will be fit that brief
yes.
best so that you don't have to, kind of fake it till you make it? It's almost like
Yep.
finding the genuine voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, just
Mm.
just in crafting the teams, the
Mhm.
producers and I'll sit down, and the producers will have in their head, this is who I'd like to put on this job, and then creatively I'll weigh in and say, I think that for the light that this client is looking for, or for the intricacy of the job, I'd like to put this photographer on it, and I think this assistant has the know-how, to assist him in the capacity for the speed of the shoot. And so each shoot is unique. Each client is unique
Mm.
in how we build that team to then service that client.
Do you
And
have it?
also,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
it's helpful to not have the same team on everything, because then you don't really develop a specific look and feel. You are doing what your client needs. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, at the end of the day, like, it's our work and we're proud of our work, but it's their job, it's their vision that we're executing. That's what they're hiring us to do.
Yeah, and keeping that flexibility, it sounds to me as like one of the strengths of your business. And I guess if you had any advice that you would like to give somebody who's striving to build a small business of their own
Mhm.
in this space, coming from a background of a photography, possibly just like you
Mhm.
did, is there some key lessons that you've learned that have helped you aside from being adaptable and willing to
Yeah,
learn?
I
Yeah.
think I think adaptability is a big
Mhm.
one. You said earlier, fake it till you make it. That is the mentality that just like is the downfall of so many. I think
Right.
admitting to what you know, and asking questions about what you don't is, I ask questions every day. I mean, I am learning from these artists that I hire every day. At this point, the people that are in place doing all of the jobs are better than I could be at any one of those jobs at this point. And that makes me feel good, because I feel like I've just strengthened the business. So I guess, check your ego at the door and just learn what you can from whoever's around you is
Forever.
my advice forever. And it
Yeah.
gets harder. It gets harder to
Yeah.
learn as you get farther into your career, especially. And one of the struggles for me right now is learning the business practices, because I can't just walk into someone else's studio and go, hey, how tell me how you do it.
It's very
They don't
closed
want to tell me.
doors. Hmm.
But
It seems
I like
counterintuitive.
that. I like that
Yeah.
collaboration. Like, I would welcome that. There have been artists that have their own studios that work here sometimes, and I think that's beautiful. I mean,
Mm.
I
I
think
love
that
that.
this thing has gotten so big, the fear of any one person coming and overthrowing it is gone from my mind. I feel like
That's a
if
good feeling.
everybody, I feel like if everybody is, if everyone's working with you, they can't be working against you. So, um, that's my that's my secret, I guess. I don't know if
Secret
it's
sauce
I don't know. I don't
amongst so
know if
much.
that's I don't know if that's if it's working or not, but yeah, just bringing on as many people as possible and
From this side, from this perspective, I think it's working. It's
cool.
looking wonderful. And I think you have a lot of ambitions. And I'm curious to know if there's any upcoming things that you want us to look out for in the future. I know you have a new website
Hmm.
coming up. Uh,
Yeah.
any
So
expectation on that?
this right here just launched right before we went live. We have a new website coming shortly. This is kind of the interim website. We've been doing a lot of SEO work, and that's been fun to learn about. So I am learning something there. And then we have
Awesome.
Rainy Day Media that's going to be launching. So I'll make sure
So
I
cool.
shoot you a ping when that comes out.
So yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out. And chat, definitely check it out. Thanks everyone for being with us. Thank you,
Thank
Courtney, for
you.
being
Thank
here and
you.
sharing so much of your journey with us. This
Thanks,
has been
Cyn.
wonderful. Everyone restream this. I know there's so many good nuggets in here, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.